Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the Nifty end a challenging FY25 with 3% gains. Indian equities underperform US, Europe and China. The last session of the financial year ends with marginal losses. Gold prices hit a record high as tariff tensions spur safe haven buying. Gold is up over 31% in this financial year. Silver beats gold with annual returns of more than 35%. It's not just about tariffs. Sources say the US wants India to drop non-tariff barriers like data localization, differential tax treatment, among others. India is likely to seek a pause on tariffs and propose to buy more energy and defense equipment from the US. That's an exclusive. US President Trump warns car makers not to raise prices because of the tariffs. Wall Street Journal reports auto CEOs are worried about potential punishment if they hike prices. 25% tariffs on all cars imported into the US will kick in from the 2nd of April.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the era of deep relationship with the US is over after the 25% tariffs imposed by the US. US allies in Tokyo, Paris and Berlin also criticized the sweeping tariffs and threatened to retaliate. As President Trump's trade war intensifies, China Xi Jinping woos global CEOs in Beijing, promises to improve market access in an effort to boost investor sentiment. Leaders from over 40 multinationals, including AstraZeneca, Hitachi, HSBC, attend the summit. Dozens feared dead, hundreds injured after a strong earthquake and aftershocks jolt Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam and parts of China. Widespread damage to buildings across the region. A high-rise collapses in Bangkok, with many people feared trapped under the debris. NSE defers plans to change its weekly F&O expiry to Monday. This after SEBI proposes that stock exchanges pick either Thursday or Tuesday for weekly contract expiry. Shares of the BSE rally in relief. LIC shortlists 3 health insurance companies to potentially pick up a minority stake of more than 30%. Sources say due diligence is underway on Niva Bupa Star Health and Manipal Cigna Health Insurance. That's an exclusive. CNBC-TV18's Newsbreak is confirmed. Cabinet clears the 25,000 crore rupee PLI scheme for electronic component manufacturing. The industry had proposed an outlay of 40,000 crores. Setback for Google. The National Companies Law Appellate Tribunal upholds the CCI's decision that Google's Play Store payment system is anti-competitive. Also upholds CCI direction for Google to allow alternate payment systems for apps and in-app purchases, but dilutes the penalty amount from over 900 crores to around 200 crores. Also sets aside the directive to share data with developers. Restaurants cannot add a mandatory service charge to patrons' bills. The Delhi High Court holds that such a practice is a violation. The Consumer Protection Act also imposes costs of 1 lakh rupees on the Restaurant Association that challenged the guideline. Let's start with the last trading day of the financial year. On Dalal Street, a volatile session ended with marginal losses for both the Sensex and the Nifty. Both the indices have gained 3% in this fiscal year. That's the story for today, closing 72 points lower. That's for the Nifty, 190 points lower on the Sensex. The mid-cap index closing 170 points lower, and a flat close there for the Nifty Bank. Indian equities have underperformed US, Europe and Chinese stock markets in this fiscal. Nigel is standing by to wrap up the year that was on the Dalal Street and how India has fared with comparison to the rest of the world. Nigel, it's been a challenging year for equities.
Well, that's right. It's been a challenging year for Indian equities in particular. In FY25, we managed to eke out some gains by the time we wound up. But the reasons that it was a challenging year was we had earnings that did slow down after a couple of years of very, very earnings growth. You had tighter monetary policy, both from the Fed. We didn't get as many rate cuts as expected. And the RBI as well did tighten liquidity in the past year or so. Besides that, you had general elections here in India as well as in the United States. And in India, you had state elections as well. A lot of big states went to elections. So that as well slowed down the capex spend. Besides that, once President Trump has taken office, well, that fear with regard to the Trump tariffs, that's continued to weigh on sentiment. But let's run you through how the past fiscals as well were. Remember, in the past year, we did have that FY24. Well, it was a blockbuster year. This year, we managed to eke out some gains with a gain of close to around 3% or thereabouts. Though the Nifty was up only around 3%, the broader markets did a tad bit better, with the mid and the small cap indices, both of them up between 6 to around 7% or thereabouts. But how does India fare with regard to how do the global markets do? Well, actually, we underperformed. Because you take a look at the emerging market, that's the Shanghai market, that was up closer on 10%. The European markets did very, very well. That's the DAX was up closer on 22%. And the S&P 500 as well was up closer on 8%. So though we managed to pull back, we were relative underperformers in the past year. What really glittered was the precious metal space. Gold and silver up 30% apiece, massively outperforming what the headline Nifty did. But the good news for us was, in a challenging year, crude oil prices did support because that pulled back closer around 10%. And as we know, it's a tailwind for the economy as well as for the Indian markets. From the Nifty pack itself, we had a couple of new entrants. BEL as well as Trend, both of them were the new entrants into the index. Even Shriram Finance did come in. And those were the top gainers in the past fiscal. Giving them company on the upside was Bharti Airtel as well as Mahindra & Mahindra. On the flip side, though, IndusInd Bank, the rank underperformer, that was under pressure. Jio Financial has made its way into the index, but in the last few months, it's seen some bit of selling pressure. And Tata Motors, Hero MotoCorp, as well as the Adani Enterprises, they comprise of the losers from the Nifty pack. But you got the stock right, you'll make plenty of money. And just take a look at these big gainers on the screen. We're not talking about 10, 20, 30% returns. You're talking about 70 as well as 100 as well as 180% odd. So you got the stock right, well, you made plenty of money. Looking at the losers, though, it's a double-edged sword because you did have Vodafone Idea, Ola Electric, Astral, Sona BLW, and Adani Total Gas. All of them were the big losers. So to sum things up, we managed to eke out some gains. We underperformed the globe. All eyes are on FY26. Can we see a bit of a bounce back? Time will tell. Back to you.
Yes, we will be tracking that very closely, Nigel. Many thanks. That was the year gone by on the Lal Street, a wrap of FY25. But as we told you, and it is now official, the government has cleared a PLI scheme for electronic component manufacturing at a little over 22,000, or actually a little under 23,000 crores. Ashwini Vaishnav, Minister METI, is addressing the media, taking us to the contours of the scheme. Our colleague Ashmit Kumar is there as well. Let's go across.
बहुत सारे करोड़ों किसानों को इसका बेनिफिट मिलेगा. इस खरीफ सीजन का एस्टीमेट है आपके सामने जो रखा है 180 लाख मेट्रिक टन का टोटल एस्टिमेटेड कंजम्पशन होगा इस खरीफ सीजन में, और 37,216 करोड़ का इसका सब्सिडी का बिल रहेगा. मैं चौथे बड़े प्रोजेक्ट पे आता हूँ. बिहार में है, हाईवे का प्रोजेक्ट है ये, और ये प्रोजेक्ट बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोजेक्ट है. ये वन ऑफ दोज रेयर प्रोजेक्ट्स जो बहुत सारे हाईवेज और बहुत सारे हाईवे सिस्टम्स को जोड़ता है. ये प्रोजेक्ट है पटना से सासाराम, आरा होते हुए सासाराम को जोड़ने वाला प्रोजेक्ट. इस नक्शे पे आप देखेंगे पटना से यहाँ पे सासाराम नीचे. खास बात है, जो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है, वो ये है कि 5 नेशनल हाईवेज और 4 स्टेट हाईवेज को ये जोड़ता है. तो इमेजिन कितनी बड़ी ये आर्टरी की तरह बिहेव करेगा ये प्रोजेक्ट. दिस विल सिग्निफिकेंटली रिड्यूस कंजेशन, और जो बिहार के अपने कंप्लीट इस एरिया में मूवमेंट पटना से लेके सासाराम तक कंप्लीट मूवमेंट इसका लोगों का बहुत इसमें बेनिफिट रहेगा. प्रोजेक्ट 2 फेजेस में होगा, 4 लेन का है, मोस्टली ग्रीनफील्ड नया प्रोजेक्ट है. कुछ एरियाज में एग्जिस्टिंग को वाइडनिंग किया गया है.
Well, that was Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav on some of the decisions taken by the Cabinet today, including clearing the electronic component PLI scheme. Ashmit is here to take us through the details. Ashmit, we've been, of course, reporting this, and today it is official. Take us through the details announced and cleared by the Cabinet.
Well, it's been a long time coming. Finally, the Cabinet has taken that decision, has granted approval as far as the electronics component PLI is concerned. The total outlay for that is about 22,900 crore rupees. That's the figure in question. Bear in mind, this is almost half of what the industry had sought. The industry had sought in the neighborhood of 40,000 crore rupees. However, what sources within the government tell us is that they're open to some amount of flexibility depending on what the response is. Now, this is significant in terms of widening the ecosystem that we have here as far as manufacturing. That's the comment that, in fact, fell from Ashwini Vaishnav, the IT minister. What he's essentially stressing on is that India is trying to expand. This decision of the cabinet is basically reflective of the government's intent to expand beyond just mobiles, to look at the broader electronics ecosystem. The anticipation, at least on the government's part, is that this PLI will encourage investments to the tune of about 40 to 45,000 crore rupees. That is something that the government is hoping. This PLI, beginning this next financial year, will stretch for a period of 6 years. And the government hopes that the current value addition, the localization that we have here, which currently is about 17 to 18%, the government is hoping that with this PLI, with the broader ecosystem also coming here, also setting up shop, that figure of local value addition could go up to about 35 to 40%. So that's the hope and aspiration. Of course, we'll have to wait now for the response that the industry generates to this PLI scheme.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Just 4 days to go for the US President Donald Trump's deadline to impose reciprocal tariffs on key trading partners, including India. Both nations have been holding talks for the last few weeks. Sources say it's not just tariffs. The US is strongly pushing India to drop non-tariff barriers as well, which include differential tax treatment and quality control orders. Despite the pressure from the White House, India may not react to reciprocal tariffs immediately, but New Delhi may offer to buy more oil and defense equipment to put tariffs on hold. Parikshit is standing by with the details of the negotiations that are currently underway. Parikshit, what's going on, what's on the table, and what are sources telling you on the likely outcome post the 2nd of April?
Assistant USTR Brendan Lynch, who is in India, has shared a list of non-tariff barriers with the Indian government. Sources say US has flagged concerns on local content requirement, data localization, and they want a level playing field for Indian and US banks. Differential taxation treatment for US companies and India's quality control orders have been highlighted as hurdles to business. American companies have also been expressing concerns about India's agri-subsidies and the MSP regime as well. We believe the Indian side is considering lowering non-tariff barriers as part of the larger bilateral trade agreement. However, irrespective of the progress of these negotiations, the reciprocal tariffs are likely to kick in on the 2nd of April. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that India may not react with retaliatory tariffs immediately, but may seek a pause on tariffs as we negotiate the trade agreement. India may actually seek a pause on tariffs by proposing to buy more oil and gas and defense platforms from the US. Some sections of the government have expressed concerns about the US approach. The feeling is that America is weaponizing tariffs and sanctions to achieve wider goals, and that is to be a major energy and defense equipment supplier in the world. The US has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement, stops fund for the WTO, and paused funding under the IRA. Trump has started tariff wars against key allies, including Canada and the European Union. Therefore, the concern is that there is no guarantee that Trump will respect a trade pact with India and not demand more concessions post that. Some officials believe that there is a need to protect sectors which are being incentivized under the PLI scheme, and that India's wheat, maize and dairy sectors must be considered as red lines in the negotiation.
Parikshit, important points there. Thanks very much for joining us. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. President Donald Trump has warned US automakers to refrain from raising prices of their cars. Now, this in response to the reciprocal tariffs. He further reiterated that executives will face consequences if they oppose the move. This warning comes a day after President Trump said he would impose 25% tariff on all imported vehicles and parts from next week. Most US-based auto companies depend on parts and materials from other countries to make cars in the US. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced that he is ending the deep economic and military ties with the US. This comes a day after US President Donald Trump continued to announce tariff hikes. Trump's 25% duty on vehicle imports to the US will come into effect next week. This move could significantly hurt the Canadian auto industry that supports around 500,000 jobs. US allies in Tokyo, Paris and Berlin also criticized the sweeping tariffs on car imports and threatened to retaliate.
We will fight the U.S. tariffs with retaliatory trade actions of our own that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impacts here in Canada. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
And as the tariff war escalates, Chinese President Xi Jinping met global CEOs, including Standard Chartered's Bill Winters and Blackstone Group Steve Schwarzman in Beijing in a bid to boost China's economy by attracting foreign investment. The president urged multinational companies to uphold the global order. He ensured that CEOs that China is a safe place for foreign businesses. The other big global headlines: an earthquake of 7.7 magnitude and subsequent aftershock struck Myanmar. The country's ruling military has declared a state of emergency across multiple regions. Security and rescue operations are currently underway throughout the impacted regions. The earthquake's epicenter was located 16 kilometers northwest of the city of Sagaing. Tremors were also felt throughout northern Thailand and downtown Bangkok. Residents were seen fleeing to the streets as buildings shook. Visuals also showed a building collapse in Bangkok. The building was under construction. Some metro and light rail services also suspended. The tremors killed a few people and injured dozens in the region. Over 40 people appear to be trapped under the rubble. Jolts of the Myanmar earthquake were also felt in Vietnam and parts of southern China. Mild tremors were also felt in Kolkata and Imphal. However, officials believe there are no reports of damage to property or loss of life in any cities. Prime Minister Modi has said that India stands ready to offer all assistance to Myanmar and Thailand. And staying with international news, Israeli military continues to deepen its offensive in Gaza, killing at least 10 Palestinians in pre-dawn attacks. The UN World Food Programme has warned that thousands of Palestinians face severe hunger and malnutrition. This comes after Israel halted all humanitarian aid into the enclave more than 3 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Israel has threatened to act forcefully against any threat after claiming that 2 rockets were fired from southern Lebanon. From one war to another, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has called for an interim government in Ukraine under the supervision of the UN. The president said the move would pave the way for elections in Ukraine and discussions for a peace treaty. He also alleged that the current Ukraine administration was illegitimate. We will head into a break. National Companies Law Appellate Tribunal upholds the Competition Commission's decision that Google's Play Store payment system is anti-competitive. That and more when we return. In a setback for Google, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal has upheld the Competition Commission's order. The order directed that tech giant's Play Store payment system is anti-competitive. Now, the NCLAT has also diluted CCI's penalty order from 936 crores to 216 crore rupees, which has to be paid in a month's time. Remember, the CCI order had also stated that the tech giant cannot discriminate against other payment systems. So setback there coming in for Google. The Bureau of Indian Standards has conducted search and seizure operations at Amazon and Flipkart warehouses. The national standards body has claimed that the e-commerce giants were selling products that were not certified. Shilpa joins us now with the details. Shilpa.
Well, there has been yet another crackdown on e-commerce giants Amazon and Flipkart for selling non-certified products. Now, the latest search and seizure operations by the BIS was in Delhi. Now, at Amazon's warehouse in Mohan Cooperative Industrial Area of Delhi, officials carried out a 15-hour-long search, seizing over 3,500 products without the mandatory ISI mark. Now, these included products like geysers, food mixers, electrical appliances, and these were all together valued at about 70 lakh rupees. Now, this was followed by another operation that happened at Amazon's Hyderabad warehouse on the 25th of March, which uncovered 2,783 uncertified consumer goods, and these were worth 50 lakh rupees. Now, on Flipkart's warehouse, operated by its subsidiary Instacart Services in Srinagar in Delhi, that was also searched. Now, officials found 590 pairs of sports footwear without the required ISI mark and manufacturing details, and these were worth 6 lakh rupees. Now, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs in a release said that similar raids have taken place across Delhi, Gurgaon, Faridabad, Lucknow and Sri Perumbudur over the past 1 month. Now, currently 769 products require mandatory BIS certification, and the sale, storage or distribution of these items without the certification is actually a punishable offence under the BIS Act of 2016, and this is why all of these searches are being conducted to ensure compliance, and these carry penalties including fines and even imprisonment. Now, responding to these searches, Amazon India said in a statement that as a marketplace, it it requires sellers to comply with applicable laws, regulations, and Amazon policies. They've added that they take appropriate action when notified of any non-compliance. Flipkart, on its part, has said that it works with the local Indian sellers to drive awareness and also to comply with all applicable laws, and it also conducts regular audits to ensure compliance. However, both have not specified on how or why these non-compliant products were found and what actions will be taken on the sellers of those products. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Do stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.